Okay, everybody, things are getting really hot. The hottest it's ever been in the Caribbean. Just yesterday, President Trump dropped that bomb, closing the airspace in Venezuela, telling every single pilot, airline, and cartel mule that Venezuela's airspace is shut tight. No ifs, no ands, no buts. It's closed. And this wasn't just some empty X post. It's the capstone. I like to think of it as the capstone of a week of U.S. muscle flexing, like the B-52 bombers, the F-18 Super Hornets buzzing the coast on November 23rd and 24th. These are insane measures to put on pressure, and it sends a clear message to Maduro's crew that Uncle Sam is locked and loaded and not afraid to use the hardware. You got to pay attention to this because it's not just about drugs or politics. This is straight up showcasing of how American air power can potentially flip a narco state's script in the course of a few months. By the end, I'll walk you through two what-if hypothetical missions that show exactly why Venezuela's skies are about to belong to Uncle Sam. So stick around. You don't want to miss how all this plays out. Again, this is a powder keg that just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And to me, for Venezuela's regime with that kind of power overhead, they're going to feel every inch of that steel, if you know what I mean. So let's start with the heaviest hitter here, and that is the B-52 Stratofortress. That's the beast that, to me, is basically leading this charge. So think of it as the big brother that nobody wants to mess with in the bar because nobody wants to get in a fight with something that big. It was designed back in the 1950s, but it was upgraded, kind of just like your grandpa's classic modern car, except this has joint direct attack munitions that weigh 2,000 pounds, and it's got 100 of them. But besides that, exactly like your grandpa's old car. This thing's built out of aluminum alloy with wings that stretch 185 feet tip to tip. It's got high mounted wings for that stable cruise and a fuselage that's basically a flying bomb bay. It's got 8 hard points as well on the wings that can carry cruise missiles. We'll get to those here in a little bit. And the tail's got that classic swept back look to cut down drag at high speeds. The whole setup just lets it handle everything from low level runs to stratospheric high up bomb drops. It can loiter up there without even breaking a sweat. The power plant though in this thing is pretty special. It's rocking 8 Pratt & Whitney TF33 turbofans. If 7 wasn't enough, just go with 8. Yeah, 8 will be great. Each of those push out 17,000 pounds of thrust that gets that bird off the ground fully loaded, and this is just insane, at 488,000 pounds for its takeoff weight. Yeah, this is the sumo wrestler of the skies. And the performance here is we're talking about a range of over 8,800 nautical miles, and that's unrefueled. And it can cruise relatively fast for something this big at 525 miles per hour up at 50,000 feet. And it can haul 70,000 pounds of ordnance while topping out even faster than that, a dash speed of somewhere close to 600 miles per hour. So these things are ready to go. They're on alert and they are built for the long haul. They're on alert likely at both bases in North Dakota and in Louisiana. And then they can mid-air refuel off the KC-135. To me, when I see these two aircraft refueling, the 135 and the B-52, to me, it's kind of like two whales up there that just happen to find each other, and they're in a love story, and they're mating up there in the skies. That's what I see every time I see the KC-135 and the B-52 aerial refueling, and those KC-135s are those massive gas stations in the skies. Hey everybody, quick break from the video. I gotta tell you about this insane opportunity that I came across. Some of my friends own a company that will help you achieve the financial freedom that you want. I looked into this company and I can't believe this has been going on this whole time for the last few years. So what you do is you find books on certain digital platforms and then you flip them and resell them on other digital platforms for 50 to 100% profit. And part of that profit becomes yours. At the webinar, my friends Luke and Nick are going to teach you exactly how to do it. And I can't believe how much of a life-changing opportunity this has been for the people that have done this before. And I want to bring it to you. I want to give you the opportunity to do it. I think we're in uncertain times, so you might as well have that extra stream of income. And this keeps you from having to go deliver food off of Uber Eats or whatever. You can actually make the money right from your house, right from your laptop. No inventory needed, no spare bedroom that's full of products. You do it all online from your laptop. That's the best part to me. So click that link in the description. I'll be at that webinar as well. You can also scan this QR code and it'll take you right there. This is an opportunity that unleashes real freedom for you and your family, and I'm excited to bring it to the Max Afterburner community. So check that out. Now back to the video. And this combo for the Venezuela setup is ideal because you launch the KC-135s out of the various bases in the US. They can link up somewhere near Puerto Rico and then escort these B-52s, give them one last big squirt of gas, and then the B-52s link up with the FA-18s, and then they go and they rock it. And that is the playbook of what would go down if a strike was actually going to happen in Venezuela. So the tests we've seen with the B-52s linking up with the FA-18s, that's exactly how it would go down, likely in the middle of the night, but very similar. That's why these shows of force are so important. And speaking of that F-18, the F-18E, that is the single seat version. The F-18F is the dual seat version. F-18E is the one that's going to be air superiority. So it's going to be going in there, leading the charge, front row seat, trying to slam in an AMRAAM into any Su-30s or F-16s that Maduro may have. That's got a 60-foot wingspan. It's got twin F-414 engines that crank 44,000 pounds of thrust. It can hit Mach 1.8, and it just gives me tingles in places that I never even knew I had. With a range of 1,200 nautical miles, a combat radius that can get you to a place where you need to get in the Caribbean, fight a fight, and then get home. That is perfect for carrier ops off of the USS Gerald R. Ford. These airframes, they're not exactly the flashiest, but they're proven workhorses that turn geopolitical headaches into problems that are just now solved. And here's a diagram actually showing the flight path of that B-52 and the F-18s when they linked up with it. This also shows the different positions of the naval assets that are in the area. And when that B-52 and F-18 linked up just a few days ago, the USS Gerald R. Ford was near Puerto Rico. And that's likely a nice safe spot because, again, these F-18s can blast off from there, link up with a tanker, and then fly Venezuelan missions while that carrier strike group, especially the aircraft carrier, is protected by the massive amount of assets that are now at Roosevelt Roads Air Base in Puerto Rico. And speaking of that, this is the base yesterday, just a few hours ago. This base has turned into a mega base with airframes rolling in 24/7 operations. And this is also part of the buildup showing that the U.S. is now using this mega base to be the cartel launch point, the cartel crushing launch point where the U.S. will be striking and taking down the cartel. This base is now a super highway for fighter jets. So this is being reported on a level that we've never seen before, and that tells us that likely we're about to enter a new phase of this campaign. I want to talk a little bit about what the B-52 would be carrying, though. It's a floating arsenal, so it would carry 20 AGM-86 Alcoms. That's air-launched cruise missiles, ALCMs. There's your acronym. Hope you enjoyed it. It's your daily dose of acronyms. Those give the B-52 the ability to do standoff strikes. Each have a 1,500 nautical mile range, and they have pinpoint accuracy even when they're jammed. And then they can also carry a conventional warhead that can level a runway from 40,000 feet where the crew doesn't even have to get close. But if they did want to get close after that initial volley of those standoff weapons, they can carry multiple GBU-31s, likely 50 plus of those 2,000-pound bombs. And again, when those things are getting in close, they're going to be surrounded by EA-18G Growlers. They'll be surrounded by F-18s, and they're not going to be sweating anything because at that point, the air superiority will be firmly in the hands of the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy. And then there's the JASSM-ER. That's the Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile, and that is an advanced version of that. They actually have independent routes that it can fly, doing terrain matching, dodging radars, dodging SAMs, flying autonomously before popping off their 1,000-pound payload in Maduro's palace. That's the capability of the B-52. So people might say it's not a stealthy aircraft. That's true. But when you're doing a standoff weapon launch from 1,000 miles away, that's pretty stealthy because you're nowhere close to the threat. But then the FA-18. So I want to focus on their missile that they're carrying. That's a longer range missile that they would likely be using to schwack cartel jets, so Su-30s and the F-16s. And that's the AIM-120D AMRAAM. That's an advanced medium-range air-to-air air-to-air missile. It's for beyond visual ranges, but it can also be used in dogfights. It's got active radar homing, and it's said to be able to be used for over 75 nautical miles away, which is massive. And you can basically fire it and forget about it, and it goes out there and does the work for you, targets into those Su-30s or those F-16s. And then also the AGM-88 HARM missile. HARM, high-speed anti-radiation missiles. Great acronym there. Those are built to go out and strike enemy radars like S-300s and nail them from, 80, 90 miles out. And there's the Harpoon anti-ship missiles that could sink any Venezuelan coastal runners. If they wanted to use it on cartel drug runners, that'd be a possibility as well. Might be a little overkill for that though, but that's got onboard multi-mode IR seekers. So pretty epic there. And a laser designator, no big deal. So again, this whole package links together with data links, with Link 16, and it all talks to each other. So multiple different weapons being used across the spectrum, and they're all talking to each other, from the F-18 launching AIM-120Ds to the B-52s launching its JASSMs. This is a coordinated war that would go down on a level that basically looked like an orchestra, because at this point they've practiced it so much. Because in that Venezuelan operation, you'd see B-52s lobbing cruise missiles to blind radars, while Hornets mop up with precision drops, all networked so there would be no wasted shot. And to me, it's all about that guided insertion, hitting the mark without any awkward fumbling. Okay, so fair is fair. Let's size up the other guy, because Venezuela's not exactly flying crop dusters here. Their Air Force, the FANB, the Fuerza Aérea Nacional Bolivarian, they lean heavy on Russian gear. They've got about 18 Su-30 Mk2 flankers. Those are the technical top dogs. Twin-engine beasts with 1,800 nautical mile range, topping out at Mach 2, so pretty fast. They're armed with R-77 missiles that can reach about 68 miles, and KH-31 anti-ship missiles for coastal defense. These are parked at multiple bases across Venezuela. The pilots are trained, but they've got less training than Western pilots. So maybe I would say 20 sorties a day max when you combined the Su-30s and the F-16s. They've potentially got the ability to get up those 20 sorties, but as soon as they get off the ground, if the F-18s are cleared hot, schwack, those things are going to go down with those AIM-120Ds. They're not even going to know what hit them. And again, remember, Venezuela doesn't have the AWACS setup that the US has, that airborne warning and control system. That is a very important setup when it comes to any type of air war. They've maybe got a few ground-based radars, but not the type of setup that's going to give the US Navy the ability to see everything going on within thousands of miles. So they're basically talking a big game with those Russian rides. But we know when this goes down, when both sides show up, it's going to be pretty clear who's packing the real heat. Okay, so what's actually unfolding? Because this isn't just hypotheticals, it's boots on the deck right now. Boots that are out there. The US Navy is out there in the Caribbean, and who knows, there could be special operators rolling into Venezuela at any point in time. So on November 23rd, US Southern Command surged their assets. That's when the B-52s rolled in from that 5th Bomb Wing in Minot, North Dakota, and that's a bomber task force rotation, and it's not exactly an exercise. By the 24th, Papa 1-1, that was that B-52. It threaded the needle between Aruba and Caraco, 100 miles off of Caracas, and the transponders were blaring hot for Flight Radar 24. So everybody was there to see. It was a statement directly to Maduro that, hey, we're here. FA-18Fs were on the wing. They launched from the carrier. They steamed with those B-52s 100 miles off the coast, basically showing, hey, this isn't just a joyride. This is an exercise that shows that we can take you down. And then that exact same day, here's where some breaking information is just now coming in. A Conviasa Airbus A340-300, fresh from Moscow with diplomatic cargo, whatever that might mean. So maybe a few, bags of coffee that have some Shahed drones in it. They probably were bringing a lot of spares for the Russian jets. The Su-30s were probably being refitted since their operations have increased a little bit. They were en route to Margaritas Island Port Lamar runway, but flight tracking has it vectoring straight, fat and happy at flight level 350, but then mid-stride, it yanks a hard left, mid-stride. Interesting. No comms have been released yet, but aviation circles are buzzing with this intercept. Hornets likely keyed up on 121.5 guard, and they said something like this: Conviasa flight. This is U.S. Navy intercept aircraft 1-1. You are in restricted airspace, and a declaration is in effect. Divert to Maketi, or this will get hot. And I'm sure that A340 heard that and said, yeah, let's go ahead and comply. And then they probably put the F-18s out front, rocked the wings, and then diverted them to that other airport. And then they got there under heavy escort to make sure they actually landed. And then I'm sure that cargo was hustled off as fast as possible and tried to be hidden. But that creates a logistics nightmare for trying to get that hardware to those Su-30s now. But this is textbook. It's not a kinetic takedown, but this is U.S. assets dictating terms of Russia without a shot being fired, and they're reminding Maduro that even his supply lines are answering to Washington at this point. And then by November 29th, it all crystallizes with this airspace takedown, and you turn that show of force into basically ironclad enforcement. Flight Radar 24 blanks out over the SVV FIR, Venezuela's flight information region. No transponders have been pinging since the announcement. No commercial overflights. No cartel ghost aircraft likely slipping low because now they're being targeted by F-35s. And Southcom's got this whole box just sewn up. Likely RQ-4 Global Hawks are loitering at 60,000 feet for wide area surveillance. MQ-9s are below them at that next level, dipping to probably about 25,000 feet, doing close-in hunts for any narco boats, and they're feeding real-time information to the Ford's Combat Information Center and the Aegis combat system that connects everything. But of course, Venezuela is going to have a little bit to say about this. Their state media has spun it as Yankee piracy, and they've scrambled a handful of Su-30s, those Soviet-era jets, the Venezuelan workhorse, and they're basically saying, hey, we can go up and fight you if needed. But it looks like they're bingo fuel after about 20 minutes aloft because sanctions have bit very hard on their maintenance, and that A340 not being able to make it in with spare parts is definitely eating into their ability to get aircraft airborne. All right, let's jump into two hypothetical scenarios quickly, and that would be a Russian II-76 transport, a built hauler to haul cargo planes, lifts off from Makedi. It's loaded with ammo for border outposts, and it's ignoring the no-fly order. U.S. Southern Command lights it up on radar from Morocco, about 50 miles offshore. Two FA-18E single-seat jets have blasted off the Ford's deck, and they're ready. Their call sign is Venom 1 and Venom 2. Their afterburners kick in, and they accelerate to 600 miles per hour to intercept this cargo plane. They jump in about 10 miles behind the plane, and they realize that this plane has taken off with Su-30s on its wings. The Su-30s break away. The F-18Es have both of these doped, locked up. Each F-18 targets one with an AIM-120D from over 50 nautical miles away. Whoosh, the AMRAAMs launch off those jets, those telephone pole-sized missiles, lock on and slam into the Su-30s. The Su-30s turn into fish food at this point. Massive explosions. They might try to launch a last-ditch effort of one of their heaters coming off the jet before the missile impacts them. So we see two missiles fly off the Su-30s, but the F-18s know what's coming. They pull their jets out of afterburner and they launch flares to distract those heat-seeking missiles, and the Su-30s plunge into the ocean. But then that cargo freighter is out in front of them. Instead of taking them down, they intercept it, they pull out in front of it, and that cargo freighter, having seen its escorts both go down in a fiery blaze, decide to follow the F-18s, and they're diverted to Caracas, where they land, and at that point, Special Forces is ready to offload the cargo for Maduro. For the next situation, let's say escalation hits an all-new level. Intel pins Cartel de los Soles airstrip in a pure state as the fentanyl pipeline superhighway. It's a dirt runway that handles AN-2 biplanes for cartel hops. A B-52 call sign Papa 42 has tanked twice, and it's en route from Louisiana. It orbits 200 miles off of the coast, and its data link is teamed up with EA-18G Growlers that are jamming any type of surface-to-air missiles along the coast. And here's the kicker. It's also teamed up with the X-BAT. The X-BAT has just been released to do ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And it's not only giving information to the EA-18Gs to jam certain surface-to-air missiles on the coast, but it's finding the exact pinpoint locations of these dirt strips where these cartel haulers are taking off from. Additionally, the Su-30 strips nearby, the improved runways, are being targeted by the X-BATs as well. The X-BATs home in, and they themselves start to take down and fire AMRAAM missiles at those crop duster aircraft, while the B-52 is getting target coordinates simultaneously from the X-BATs for its JASSMs, for its standoff weapons, which are already in flight. So the B-52 already has them in flight. Then the X-BATs are updating their target coordinates as they fly in towards those cartel headquarter strips. As soon as the strips come within view of those cruise missiles, the cruise missiles refine the target even more using real-time data from the X-Bats, and then they slam into those runways with their 1,000-pound warheads. But it's not over yet. The X-Bats turn and they target the Su-30s that have lifted off from Maracay. They launched AIM-120s, 6 of them at 6 Su-30s, which slam into the Su-30s, and it lights up the night. So there you go, guys. U.S. air power is not just ready, it's already reshaping the board in Venezuela, in my opinion, from those B-52 patrols to that A-340 being nudged off course, and the full airspace clampdown that's now happening. Maduro's basically staring down a sky that he can't own anymore. And with assets like the Super Hornet and the B-52 Stratofortress in play, along with the X-Bat and potentially even the Anduril Fury, this message is clear. This is pushback on a whole new level, and it's about to get real kinetic real fast. What do you guys think? Where do you guys think this air power push goes? And in how many days do you think we'll actually see kinetics kick off? Would love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram, follow me on X, and if you would, just watch this video right here. When you watch this video right here, it helps the channel grow exponentially, and I would greatly appreciate it. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.